Okay, hello everyone. In the interest of time, we will kick this off so that we can all enjoy the maximum of this webinar and product demonstration. I want to thank you all for making time and putting aside to be with us today. I'm Rony Vexelman. I'm the VP Marketing here at Optimove. I'm joined by Shai Frank, the SVP Product. And today, as the slide says, and as all you know, we're going to be talking about Optimove AI and how, as marketing has changed, Optimove AI has been built for it. If at any point you have a question, there is a QA box, a Q&A box at the bottom bar on the Zoom. If you do not see it, click on the three dots that say more, and you should be able to access it that way. We will leave time towards the end for questions. And those that we do not have time to answer, we will, of course, reach out after the fact. Just to start, as not everyone here might be familiar with Optimove, Optimove is a CRM marketing platform that enables marketing teams to be positionless. If you've never heard about the term of positionless marketing, so let me tell you a little bit about it. If you think about marketing traditionally, it's worked as an assembly line. My home team is the same, right? You have a person who builds your segments. You have a person who builds your creative. You have a person that puts the campaigns together. You have a person that runs your analytics. Maybe you have a person that is your technical markups. And every time that you want to get a campaign out the door or a journey or just build an audience, you're waiting for someone else in that assembly line, in that flow to complete their job so you can start yours. The Optimove platform was built for you to cut the line so that that wait is over. The result is that you can do more faster. Today, we're going to talk about the specific part of Optimove, which is Optimove AI, and how that helps empower marketers to be positionless. So over the last 2 years, and more specifically over the last 12 months, the what you do, how you do it, and where you do it in marketing has changed dramatically, right? Gartner even says that by 2028, 60% of brands will use Agentic AI to facilitate streamlined one-to-one interactions. So all channel technology will basically collapse and redefining how customer journeys are built, executed, and optimized. Optimove AI is built for exactly how marketing works today and where it's going next. And it's basically built on top of three pillars. Inside Optimove, the native AI, the agents that decide, create, optimize alongside you. Outside Optimove through the Optimove MCP, allowing you to work from platforms like Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot, and more. And on top with custom apps built with AI by our FDEs, right? And developed and deployed, inside Optimove for needs that no feature covers outside the box. These are tailored developments deployed inside Optimove for you. Today, we're going to focus on the first two, not talk too much about custom apps. But if you have questions about them, of course, please do put them in the Q&A and we will answer it towards the end. Let's start with inside. The native agentic layer in Optimove, the coordinated team of agents that surface insights, create assets, and decide what's the next best action for your customers inside the workflows you already run, right? Insight agents like AI Insights, which scans all your marketing platform and all your marketing programs and suggests, recommends actions that you can do to optimize them, better segments, new campaigns, things you can stop, places where you can add content or variations to improve the marketing. Content intelligence, which tags the content you're sending so that you can make smarter decisions and smarter marketing in the future and better personalization, better segmentation, etc. Right? In the creation side, the ability to create audiences, to create content, to create free-to-play mini games, right? And complete campaigns or journeys. And our call to fame, the decisioning agents that allow you to make decisions across your whole workflow in an agentic way, leaning on AI to create personalized experiences for your customers, going all the way from deciding what is the next best audience, what campaign or what journey those audiences should get, what offer they should have, what content should be within the campaign that they're getting, and at what time they should receive it. And soon enough, we'll also be offering the ability to have a channel decisioning as well. So what is the best channel for these customers based on their specific customer DNA? And we always add to these different layers of agents as time goes by. If you've been a customer of ours, you've probably seen that development yourself. Outside of Optimove is the ability to connect Optimove across your technology ecosystem through our MCP and work directly within AI tools, right? Leveraging the processing and thought process and thought power that these tools can bring. So we basically allow you to do 4 things from the first step of knowing what is possible. What is the art of the possible with Optimove, right? Exploring what you have available. So, for example, how many active customers with a high churn probability do you have? Or what are the journeys that are currently running in Optimove? Or what campaigns do I have live, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Build anything from audiences all the way to data points, triggers, journeys, campaigns, games, as mentioned before, and analyze the results of what you've just built. And all of this from the MCP, where the value of using this against the native layer is the fact that in here you can actually connect also to other technology and ecosystems, and we will show you that in the next part of the presentation. So I do not want to kill you on slides. I promise that we will keep this at 5 minutes, and I hit the exact mark of 5 minutes. I will hand it over to Shai to begin the product demonstrations, starting from outside from the MCP, and we will work our way into Optimove as we go through the presentation.
Thank you, Rony. Hi, everyone. I'll quickly share my screen. So, as Rony mentioned, the Optimove MCP allows you to use your AI tools of choice and interact with Optimove behind the scenes. So I'm using Claude here. The same thing would work just as well with ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, or any other AI agent that supports the MCP protocol. And let's start with a couple of very simple examples, right? I already pre-connected. Now, just housekeeping from a demo perspective. Every prompt here might take a few dozens of seconds to respond with a credible answer. So some of them I pre-did before the session started today, just so we don't waste some time. So, let's start with a simple one. How many customers are high value, high risk of churn? Very simple question, and I get a response. Almost 600 customers, and this is connected to a demo environment. So it's not millions of customers in that demo environment, but nevertheless, 600 customers are both high value and high risk of churn, and I get the explanation of how Claude interpreted what high value means and how it interpreted what high risk of churn means, and it's using actual attributes and predictive models from inside of my Optimove instance. And then I asked it, okay, can you plot the Venn diagram to visualize this for me? And there we go, right? So we have almost 25,000 high value customers. We have 5,500 high risk of churn, and both are kind of like the high value, high risk of churn are almost 600, and I get the exact breakdown of the numbers from my instance. So that's a simple data exploration prompt, and I quickly get a result. Now let's spice it up a little bit, and I want to know if I'm treating those customers well enough, right? Those are my high value customers. They're also in a high risk of churn. So I want to know how are my current at-risk journeys are performing in the last 30 days, and are they covering the customers we just talked about? And it analyzed and ran some commands and stuff like that. And the short answer is that at-risk journeys are running, but they are not covering those customers for whatever reason. And then I get a full explanation of how many target groups I have and how many campaigns and what are the conditions. And it tells me that I'm doing reactivation campaigns with customers that already churned, but I'm not covering the customers that are still active, but on high risk to churn. And I get a full breakdown of all of my campaigns and the target groups and how they perform and what the uplift is or not. And at the end, I'm getting a question, right? So Claude asked me, do you want me to build the active high critical risk diamond platinum target group and draft a prevention journey against it? And I answered yes. I got a few follow-up questions. What should the prevention journey look like? What incentives should we use? Which KPI should we measure? And I gave it an answer, right? So use a simple journey, reuse some existing promos that are already in the system, don't invent new ones, and the KPI we measure and optimize against would be, in this case, total deposit amount with 10% control group. And it created everything and gave me links at the bottom, right? So I click this this target group, and there I have it. So I'm now inside of my Optimove instance. This is a target group that was created by Claude and the Optimove MCP, the pre-churn save with a high value, a high risk of churn, and I can see it's created for me. Lifecycle is active, new, and reactivated customers from the diamond and platinum value segments, which is exactly how you would define high value customers, and with the risk of churn of high to critical risk of churn. I can see kind of like it selected the right tiers for me without me doing anything. So that's that. It also created a campaign draft for me, and this is the campaign draft. I can see it's already selected the target group that we just reviewed. Since I created this, a few more customers were added to this target group, right? Data is flowing in real time. So instead of 596, now it's already 612. Some details about how this campaign looks like, and this is the churn prevention offer with the email template that makes sense for this segment. Okay, very simple, right? So very simply, I was able to analyze some underserved high-value segment and quickly create an audience, a campaign, and an email template that can go out to them to save them from churning. And obviously, when I'm in Optimove, I can then tweak and make edits through the UI in a more traditional fashion. But the AI has allowed me to leapfrog most of this process and have almost ready to go assets. Now, let's spice it up a little bit. I want to create something much more comprehensive than that. And I prepared a large prompt, which is an entire brief. Let me go through it, and then I'll hit enter and see what happens. So the World Cup, I recently moved 3 years ago, not so recently. I moved from Israel to the United States, so I'm now all into US sports. And as we know, the World Cup just ended, and we acquired a lot of new customers as part of it. I want to cross-sell them into upcoming NFL season that starts early September. So I needed to identify these newly acquired customers that came just for sports or the World Cup, tell me their promo type affinity based on our content intelligence agent that Rony alluded to at the beginning, which is the AI agent that scans all the outgoing messages that go out of Optimove, tags every bit of that, all the text, all the images, everything, classifies them into types. And then because we can cross-reference what content was served to each customer, we know how customers respond to different types of context, and we can then calculate the affinities. Some customers prefer a friendly tone of voice, some customers prefer more authoritative tone of voice, some respond to these types of promotions, some respond to others, this type of imagery, and this and others. So based on this content intelligence, tell me these specific customers' promo type affinity and their channel preferences. And then I want you to create a full cross-sell campaign for them. I want to use offer decisioning to optimize between multiple levels of generosity. And I want to use existing relevant promos. Make sure you optimize for net revenue, which is profit margins. This is important. I'll touch on that a little later. The agents need to know which KPI to optimize for. And whether it's net revenue or gross revenue will make substantial differences in how the decision happens. So in this case, these are active customers. I'm trying to cross-sell them, but I want to protect my margins. So this is what I'll be optimizing for. This should be a weekly recurring campaign starting now and leading into the first weekend of NFL season, which is September 10th, if I remember correctly. Find relevant sportsbook templates I used before and edit them to match the campaign brief. Make the template dynamic using liquid and data connections so I can easily reuse them every week with updated content, right? So I want to create a recurring campaign that goes out every week, and I want the template of that campaign to be dynamic. So every week it features the right matches, the right dates, the right imagery, and so on and so forth. So it needs to be dynamic and ability to change that easily. One thing I want to make sure that the agent is not confused, that the fixtures and games obviously change every week, right? But the kickoff date is fixed, right? So I don't want to create everything dynamic, right? So make sure that kickoff is September 10th. Only use personalization fields whose values are valid for NFL. I just acquired World Cup customers, so presumably some of their preferences or some of their past historical activity was about soccer. So I want to make sure that this upcoming NFL nurturing series only features American football related stuff. Match the structure of the source templates, including hero imagery. Use an NFL hero image if you cannot personalize. Create 3 tone of voice variations in each template across subject line, pre-header, title, body, and call to action. Some naming convention. Give me direct links to all the assets you're creating. So this is a pretty comprehensive prompt, and it's a large brief to create something out of thin air. I'm going to hit enter, and this is probably going to take a good few minutes to do everything. So while we wait, I want to pass over to Rony to do another part of the demo, and then we'll go back to this and see how it ended up. So Rony, back to you. Are you muted?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I was just looking for the button. Thank you, Shai. So Shai just demoed you what usually happens when somebody gets their hands on an MCP, and especially Optimove MCP. You start prompting away, you start creating these chats. And now what I want to show you is how we recommend to actually set this up to maximize the value if you're in a team environment. So usually what happens is you don't just have Optimove, you have other tools and you have multiple projects. And what we will be demoing now is how you can set yourself and your team up to maximize the value of the MCP while, okay, great, my screen is now shared, while making sure that it's as aware as possible of what are your goals and subjects. So again, we're in Claude. This is true for any platform that you may use. What I've done is I've created a project. So Claude has this function as all others in terms of projects. And the project allows me to share with my team so that we all work from a single set of rules, guardrails, and predetermined actions. So basically what I've done here is I set up some instructions, right? So again, this is a demo. So it's saying that it connects to Optimove data to Claude, right? And the tools we already work in, which is Excel, Slack, Asana, etc. We use Asana for project management. It could be Monday or any other project management tool, of course, right? And there could be more. Some ground rules, right? Who we are, what our language should be. If something involves creating something in Optimove, always say it's a draft. By the way, Optimove MCP just creates drafts. It's on purpose because we want humans to review the Access AI make mistakes. So we actually want the marketer to be able to have some level of control over what the AI is doing. We operate in regulated states, so flag things that could be required compliance checks, be clear, where relevant, use my tools, ask clarifying questions, etc. Right? Again, these instructions are for the project, so anyone who works in my team with the Optimove MCP would have the same instructions installed. And I can also give them brand instructions. So for example, in my tone of voice guide, this is how bet in this fake brand that we use talks, the do's, the don'ts, phrases, right? Responsible gambling notices, tone calibration for each channel, even how to humanize, how to sound less like AI and sound more human. I could have brand reference guide, like color palettes and logos and imagery. I can even have my strategic brief, right? So many of us have strategies for the year or for quarters. And I could say, again, in this Q3, one of them is retaining World Cup depositors from those who recently acquired. The start of the NFL season, the NBA season, again, Shai was demoing this earlier, right? And this can have numbers and it can be really as in-depth or as lean as you would want. But the important thing is that your whole team is working off of these same things. And Claude has this context when it's creating templates, when it's creating assets, when it's giving you answers, and so forth. Okay, the last thing that I added here is a glossary. So I used Claude to help me build this so that it knows what are my lifecycle stages and the definitions of them. What are the value segment logic so that if I ask him to find like a high VIP customer, he knows what I'm talking about. What are the clusters of churn risk and future value that Optimove has? The KPIs I have in Optimove and how I measure them. The terminology that Optimove uses so that if I say something, it knows exactly what I'm doing. And by the way, you might say, Claude should know this or the MCP should know this because it's connected to Optimove, and you're right. But I'm trying to make sure that the mistakes are to a limit, are to the minimum, and that my team can work as fast and as efficient as possible. Okay, and even my agent names here so that I can ask Claude and the Optimove MCP to use them. So once I've done this, now my whole team is working together. By the way, the chats that and the tasks that each person runs are private to them unless they decide to share it. But I'm going to start talking about my scheduled tasks here. So my first one is this weekly match minigame idea. Basically what it does, every Monday at 11 a.m., it looks at the Premier League upcoming weekend. And if there's no Premier League, then it will look at soccer or football matches that are important during the week. And it will suggest 3 matches and 3 mini games that I can create within the Optimove MCP and within Optimove to use in my campaigns. So if I jump to Slack, here's my Slack window. This is a message I got this Monday, right? And it had no Premier League again. It's during preseason. We have Arsenal versus Betis. That game was yesterday. If you're an Arsenal fan, my condolences. And the minigame that it suggested, right? And what offer within Optimove I should choose and why this would work. And for every single one of these, what are the options? So I can now jump back into Claude, right? And this would be my chat from August 3rd. And I could tell it, hey, great, let's create the first minigame. And it will start creating that minigame for me, again, using the colors that are in my brand guideline. And in the end, I can actually preview the game. Again, this is a very simple build, but it's a prediction game, right? So I'm just going to do this. And then it has a scratch card here that I can get a kind of a reward, right? And then it will end, and that's it. So I can really quickly build a mini game and use Claude and the MCP to connect to my tool, which is Slack. That's where I get my information. That's where we collaborate with my teams. I can ask it to create the mini game itself, and then I can publish that mini game into Optimove. I can ask it to send me campaigns that aren't working, for example, right? So again, if I go back into my Slack into the previous week, this is a campaign, a tier VIP A/B test that's not working. Okay, the deposit amount is negative. The offers are underperforming the control, right? If it's been running for a long time. And if I click on this, then my browser will load Optimove and the campaign itself, and I can review it and I can stop it. And you can see here that now I'm inside. This is an AI offer decisioning campaign. And in this case, in a second, we'll be able to see also the performance metrics for the campaign. You can see that there's no benefit in this campaign. The actions are basically the same. So I can just come in and see exactly what are the actions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and decide to keep, kill, or tweak if I will. If I go back into Claude, right, I'm going to jump through. I'm not going to do all of these. This one here is a monthly tracker. A lot of us have monthly trackers of our campaigns, and we want to connect Optimove to, we used to like download data from Optimove or from your CRM marketing platform, go to Excel, put it in there. So this task runs once a month at the beginning of the month and updates my campaign tracker with data from Optimove. So for example, this could have the campaign ID, what was the campaign, when did it start, when does it end, what was the budget of this campaign, and then from Optimove, it's pulling the audience size, the uplift, and then it's calculating the ROI, and of course, it's going to be as large, as long as you would want. So again, connecting to where I work, be it Excel, be it Slack, and the last one is my weekly email template QA. So we at Optimove work in Asana, and what this scheduled task does is it goes into Optimove every Sunday at 11 a.m., and it will create tasks for my team to be able to, it will QA my templates, and then it will create tasks based on the responsibility of my team members. So if I show you that very quickly, this is how my Asana board would look, right? And I have here, I have 3 types of tags. Either it's a copy problem, an operational problem, or a design image graphic problem. It knows to assign to the relevant person, being my director of content, my operations team lead, or my graphic design team lead, right? And within each task and task, for example, I can again tell it what to put in here. So this is template title, this is the link, this was the issues found, the CTA is, just a button placeholder. And if I would click here, obviously it will open the correct template in Optimove so that my team can very easily come on Monday morning and start working on the pipeline of what needs to be done. And of course, again, this is into Asana. It can be done into any work force tool that you, or work process tool that you use. Okay, so this was my title. And again, this was the button here that is right now just linking to optimove.com, the website. Now moving on, I could also create artifacts. I can create custom dashboards. So for example, me as a VP of marketing, I've made an investment in Optimove. I would love to know, how is my team using Optimove, right? So this usage dashboard, it tells me how many campaigns were live in July, right? 89, how many were real-time campaigns, how many were scheduled campaigns, what's the percentage that used control groups, how many of those campaigns used AI offer decisioning agent, how many used journey decisioning agent, how many journeys and streams were used, the target group, the average size, how granular am I getting with my personalization, what is the average response rate of those target groups, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can keep on adding to this. I can also build a dashboard for CRM performance. So you have a lot of these insights in Optimove as well, but maybe you want to add and combine things or see things in a different view than what Optimove provides you. So for example, here I can see the different KPIs I've got and their trends week over week, month over month, year over year. The top campaigns, this will take a minute to load, but by the time I'll end, it will come back here. How are my lifecycle stages trending in terms of counts? How are my churn risk and future value clusters? How do my cohorts of acquisition look? And again, what are the top campaigns with links to each campaign and what are the bottom campaigns? So it really gives me a very quick high level view of what's going on. The last thing is, because we're working in tools like ChatGPT, Claude, and Copilot, you can take advantage of the, let's call it, mental processing power of these tools. So here I've created a dashboard that uses the VIP, the churn risk analytics from Optimove to find what are my at-risk VIP customers. So it found almost 1,000 of them, and it's recommending segments that I can use, right? Why they should be good and how many players are in these segments. And if I click on this, it will obviously create a target group so I can start creating that campaign. It's also looking at what campaigns are already targeting these customers that are VIP and at risk, and giving me insights into why these campaigns need refinement and what is a suggested fix. So I'm using the knowledge of Claude as an AI thinking LLM tool and the power of Optimove's data and the connection to the MCP to come up with these recommendations for me. Again, the options are limitless once you start doing it, but the benefit of setting this up as a project is that anything that your team is building and is sharing is being used in a shared context as a shared brain that ends up giving your team the knowledge and the advantage that they need to succeed. I'm going to go and share it back to Shai, or pass the ball back to Shai so that he can show the results of the prompt that he ran before I took over. Shai, all yours.
Thank you, Rony. I see there are also some questions getting stacked up in our Q&A. I already responded to a couple of them, and we'll continue to do so, and maybe we'll some do live in the end, or some will follow up after the session. Yeah, let me share again and show the results of my mega prompt from before. Okay. So if you remember, my prompt was an entire campaign brief around cross-selling newly acquired customers from the World Cup into the upcoming NFL season. So everything, kind of Claude created this full campaign brief project. Everything is built and verified. This is the cohort. It created a target group. It named it like this. It found the right dates, right? Customers that joined between these dates, right? They registered between these dates, which are the World Cup window, and they've engaged only with sports. Obviously, in this case, how many of them there are. It analyzed my content intelligence to find out their promo type affinity, and it gives me a breakdown. How many respond well to deposit bonus or free spins or cashback or whatever it might be. And obviously deposit bonus is decisively the mechanic, which is why we'll see the campaign is built around deposit bonuses. Some channel preferences, again, some breakdown there. How many customers respond well to any channel, some only to email, some only to others. And email, the conclusion is, in this case, email is the only channel that reaches the whole cohort, so the campaign is going to be email only. Of course, I can ask to make changes, but this is the kind of the initial result I received. With regards to tone of voice, we can see also some differences in how customers react. Overwhelmingly, they react well to enthusiastic tone of voice, but some prefer some others, and we'll take that into consideration. So these are some insights that I received from that single prompt. Then with regards to the campaign, it also created the campaign. We'll see that in a moment. The campaign is using AI offer decisioning with 3 variants. It optimizes for the KPI that I requested. It's running weekly on Thursdays with these 3 levels of generosity. Remember, I asked, come up with different levels of generosity and use existing promos. It found existing promos that are already configured in the system and decided to reuse them, and makes sense. Obviously, I can ask for different promos, but let's go with these ones. And it also created the email templates with some explanation on how it goes. We'll see that in a moment. Okay, so let's see how it looks like inside of Optimove. But first, as I do this, I do want to address one question that came from the Q&A. When we generate templates, email templates, those are actually generated by AI, but they're not generated out of thin air. They are using past templates from the same instance to understand the layout and the style of previous templates. So it generates something that matches my previous templates, and it also takes into consideration our brand guidelines and rules. This is a new feature under settings that you can define your guidelines, rules, compliance, tone of voice, and so on and so forth. So when we generate templates, it uses past templates as reference, take into consideration the brand guidelines, and then generate something that's hopefully useful and not just nice demoware. So going back to our real use case here. So here's the target group that was created. As you can see, the target group was created with an attribute of registration date that's between those specific dates, which are the World Cup that ran this summer. The product preference is sport. So these are customers that came during the World Cup and engaged and bet and deposited with World Cup sports betting, and they made at least one, right? At least one sports betting. So that's a target group. Now let's look at the campaign it created. So it's using the target group that we just talked about, and it currently holds almost 10,000 customers. It's starting today and repeats weekly every Thursday and ends on the first weekend of the NFL season. And here's the meat part of the campaign. So it created three actions. Okay, so I'm experimenting with 3 different levels of 3 different offers as I requested. The first one is a 10% deposit bonus. The second one is a 15%, and the third one is 20%. And for each one, there is a matching template. Now, one thing important to remember for those of you who may not know, what is Optimove's AI offer decisioning? When you set up a campaign that tests between different offers, Optimove is using AI offer decisioning to make sure that every customer gets the right offer for them. So in this visual, you can imagine this is it's a representation of the entire audience. And we find micro audiences, we call them micro segments, inside of your general campaign audience that resemble each other, right? So these would be specific personas based on whatever data that you have in Optimove. The richer the data, the more competent this decisioning agent becomes. So it finds clusters of customers based on their gender, their age, their state or country, their product preferences, their recency, their frequency, their typical interaction behavior, and so on and so forth. Clusters them into small clusters, and then decides which customer gets which offer. So it's not an A/B test with a winner takes all. It's optimizing continuously where every customer is getting the right offer for them, and it's self-optimizing over time. So as time goes by, and this campaign is weekly recurring, and it could, in our case, it's like a 6-week nurture series, but you can imagine something that goes for longer periods of times. And it will cater for seasonality. So if customer behavior changes over time, the allocation of the offer per customer changes over time. So this is the point of AI offer decisioning. So going back to our campaign, we're testing again between 3 different levels of promos. Here's the template that was created. Again, I asked it to use some of our existing templates from this instance. So this is the general look and feel of email templates in our demo brand that we call Bedin. And you can see it created a very personalized and dynamic template with a lot of placeholders of a header, of the pre-header text, of the actual offer, and a placeholder for the actual games every week, right? The fixture, the market, the kickoff time, the day, blah, 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 all of that, right? So, and also the call to action is dynamic, and the footer is dynamic, and everything is dynamic. If I show you a preview of how this may look like for an individual customer, you can see this template coming to life, right? So remember, all of this copy, I did not ask for it. It came by itself, again, using our brand guidelines and using the content preferences of our customers, the enthusiastic tone of voice and the friendly and everything that we saw before. And you can see the brief is NFL is back, and so are you. Hi, Brenda. You joined us for the World Cup, and you did not just watch. You backed it. American football season starts now, and the same instincts travel. Opening weekend goes up on September 13th. And in this case, that's the 10% deposit bonus. And this is still a placeholder. I still haven't uploaded the actual calendar of the season. Once I do that, it will automatically populate in this template. And you can see if you're new to the NFL, right? So money line, spread, and totals work exactly like other markets you already know, and so on and so forth. Now claim my 10% bonus. See you Sunday, right? So this is fully dynamic template. In this case, that's the 10% bonus one. I can show you the same one with a 20% bonus, right? It's similar, but the ones that are getting 20% are actually getting the right message in their email. So that's that, right? So that was my very elaborate promotion. Very elaborate prompt that I asked for. I gave it an entire brief. It created the right target group. It created the campaign. It created the content, and it did so in a way that is ready to go. I can make some tweaks myself. I can make changes. I can ask for different types of promotions. I can continue editing the template, but I already get a group of assets that are ready to go. and following my brand and all the context that we have about my brand and the campaign brief. So with that, the last thing I want to show you is obviously everything we demoed until this moment was using the Optimove MCP server. So you're using your own AI, in my case, Claude, and interact with Optimove behind the scenes. We have also launched OptiGenie, and it's now rolling out in beta, and which is the native AI inside of Optimove. It's using the same foundation, so the same MCP server capabilities that we showed you until now. These are exactly the same foundation, and it's actually using real Claude inside of the system, obviously with a lot of our harness and our context that we inject into this. So as the same you can use from outside, you can now do inside of Optimove. I'll show you a quick example, like I get some suggestions of prompts to use, and this is accessible from this OptiGenie icon here at the top bar, and I can ask it to analyze my last week's email campaign performance. It will think for a few seconds, and hopefully it will generate results. I'll start by identifying the email channel, pull the last week's performance, okay, analyzing the channel, analyzing the campaigns. It's running some code in the background, not that you should care too much. And in a few seconds, I will see the actual results of everything, hopefully. Please, there we go. Okay, so last 7 days of the email channel, the bottom line, it drove this much revenue in test group deposit with this much uplift over the control group. I get a breakdown, how many campaigns, what's the total deposit, what's the uplift versus control, how many of them are statistically significant, and so on and so forth. Which campaigns are my top performers, which campaigns are my underperformance. Remember, I did not ask for all of this. I just analyzed, very simple prompt, analyze last week's email campaign performance. I'm getting a full breakdown, top underperformance with flags worth taking a look. And do you want me to drill into some of these and see what's driving the negative uplift in this case? That might be strange. So this is just a quick example of everything I could do through the MCP from outside. We can now do inside of Optimove. And what we're building towards is creating a very immersive experience for AI inside of Optimove. So the idea is to have a seamless experience where you can talk with AI and continue editing your campaigns, your target groups, your templates, continue analyzing or viewing the reports in your own eyes side by side. So it creates a much more seamless user experience when you work from Optimove inside, as opposed to using the MCP from outside. So with that, I think we have concluded the demo part of our session today. But before we close, I want to, let's go back to our couple last slides before we conclude. So we gave you a demo. Obviously, there's a lot more we can do with Optimove AI. We focused on a few examples that we thought would be useful to this session. I do want to say that we released the Optimove MCP server in beta 5.5 weeks ago. And this is probably one of our fastest growing and most successful product launches that we've had in years. We are seeing usage growing 7x week over week. And you can request beta access from your customer success manager, and you will get it pretty quickly if you're not already using it. Just a few examples of what some clients are already doing with the MCP server. So we see a CMO of one of our clients, right, that is running some benchmarks of their promos and the deliverability and compare between their different promos and some other brands. We can see clients that are multi-brands that are creating audiences across brands and across different markets. Very quickly, we can see entire lifecycle plans built from the ground up, right? So churn and VIP journeys. They created 70 drafts of audiences and campaigns just in a few days, with 64 offers to run offer decisioning against, and so on and so forth, right? There are many examples. I only chose a few. We can go on and on of this. The interesting part is that we ourselves are finding some of our clients doing very inspirational things, right? Things that we didn't even think ourselves. They're creating entire programmatic campaign calendars based on their own strategy documents and their own spreadsheets, create an entire plan, work in Asana, work in Workfront, work in Excel, whatever it might be, and then just push everything into Optimove with one click, right? It just creates all of the audiences, all of the email templates or the push templates, all of the campaigns. Everything is ready for a human to review and just publish and activate. And we also see people that are not usually Optimove users, right? We see executives that not typically log into SaaS software like Optimove. All of a sudden, those executives are becoming de facto users of the platform. They can ask questions, get reports, build their own dashboards that are always live, and then they can consume data from Optimove and not depend on their teams pushing reports to them every Monday morning. So there are some very cool stuff, and we're looking forward to see some of the examples that you create and how you bring this to life. Now, before we wrap up, one thing that was important for us to mention. AI is obviously as good as the data that it has, and we want our customers to use AI and use agentic workflows with confidence. And the whole idea is that as a positionless marketing platform, we want you CRM teams primarily to be able to have access to data, have access to predictive intelligence, be able to draft experiments, analyze results without having to wait for professionals that do it for you. And AI allows you to do that. But it's important for the data and the underlying functionality to be supportive of these agentic workflows, which is why Optimove has always prided itself with its rich data foundation. So unified customer data, rich historical and real-time and predictive data that can then use these, you can use for insights, for analysis, for measurement, and for setup of campaigns. If you didn't have this data accessible, then the insights would have been very weak because there's nothing to report on. If you're only looking at kind of if your data set is just the last 30 days of your app events, for example. And as important, as we build those decisioning agents that are running in the background and optimizing your campaigns, optimizing the level of generosity, the time of send, and things like that, we as humans, we are now becoming managers of teams of agents. And we give them goals and we give them objectives. And it's important for the agents to optimize for the right outcome, which is why we have invested and still investing a lot in measurement and attribution. So we know that when you optimize for net revenue, this net revenue is being measured in a right way, in a statistically significant fashion, with representative control groups that are not just pure randoms that may under or oversample some groups of customers. So we invested a lot in that, so you can have confidence that when you're sending AI to build a campaign and optimize for an outcome, it's optimizing for the right outcome and not just based on vanity, last click attribution or naive models like that. So with that, I think we are concluded with the content that we wanted to share today.
One more slide, Shai, if you just click.
Yes. Oh, yep. By the way, yes. Rony, do you want to? Yeah.
Yes, I will do the honors. So if you are on our mailing list or follow us on social, you probably saw the news yesterday that we've announced the dates for Optimove Connect 2027. Optimove Connect is the premier user conference for Optimove customers, prospects, partners, over 500 people come to London every year for 2 days, all about Optimove. This year's theme will be You Lead, AI Delivers. Rightfully so announced here in this webinar, and we invite you all to come and join us. If you have questions about this, please ask your Optimove contacts or contact me directly. More